look great, by the way, and I like your background.
Thank you so much. It takes me a lot of time just to arrange the books. You know, it's really hard. There's so many books back there that you have to make sure they're all well aligned. You know.
I know, right?
I'll be Dr.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to Medical Mondays with Dr. O. I
Amazing.
am Dr. Inokwesome, and I'm a family practitioner, HIV specialist who treats addictions also in Maryland. I'm always excited to be on Medical Mondays with Dr. O, where I learn so much myself every week. So last week, we talked about basically brain health. It's deeper than that, for those of you who were here last week, and how to combat dementia. We felt like we didn't dig deep enough because we need to talk more about prevention or treatment of dementia. It's been something that is going on a lot around us. We're seeing a lot more people with dementia. And so we brought back Dr. David Ajibade to come, give us a second level, an upper level of what we started last week. So I'm going to yield to you. Dr. Ajibade, you have the floor. Welcome.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Dr. O, for having me back. And I always appreciate these times we have together. Good evening, everyone. So we're going to go into like Dr. O said, deeper knowledge into dementia. Just to as a waiver, I have to say that I am licensed and I practice in Nigeria. Although I do a lot of telemedicine, I have patients around the world. So my licensing is in Nigeria. However, the information that we share, I believe, will be of benefit to you, whether I'm in Nigeria or otherwise. And what the approaches that we have developed to address dementia have been validated by the federal government. We basically presented our findings and we presented our approach and we presented the results to the Federal Ministry of Health, and they gave us a stamp of approval. One reason is that pretty much there's nothing else really that is out there that is really making a huge difference when it comes to memory loss, cognitive decline, and dementia, especially in a safe way. And as you know, anytime we begin to get good neurologists or good experts, many times they are poached into the developing countries or developed countries like the US. And so there's this brain drain thing going on all along. But our approach is really something that is safe and that you can use in your own, wherever you are in the world. And so it's all about, in a safe way, rebuilding your brain, repairing your brain, using the right building blocks to repair and fix your brain. And we'll get into that very soon. So let me just go ahead and share my slides, and then we shall commence. Everybody can see the slides, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So we'll just the foundation it's called the Brain and Body Foundation, and we do research as well as treatment and charity. Our main focus was initially with children, but we've migrated to adults with brain disorders. And this is like the outline. We're probably going to go through. We're going to skip a few things, but I just want to let you know this is kind of like what we're going to be talking about. And of course, we have to do a quick recap. But before then, I want to start with this quote: "A man does not come to the almshouse or the jail by the tyranny." Let me reduce this. By the tyranny of fate or circumstance, but by the pathway of groveling thoughts and base desires. Nor does a pure-minded man fall suddenly into crime by the stress of any mere external force. The criminal thought had long been secretly fostered in his heart, and the hour of opportunity revealed its gathered power. Now you're wondering why I'm reading this. This is by James Allen. But I think it fits very, very, very nicely with what we're talking about dementia. And really, whether it's dementia, cancer, diabetes, heart attacks, strokes, basically these things don't just jump on you suddenly. There's usually, you can look back and you can see, so to speak, a paper trail. You can see how one thing led to the other. maybe for the most part, you were not aware of it. But if you look back, if somebody was inside your body and looking at the things that were happening to your body over a period of time, it would make sense to that person, even if it wasn't a healthcare professional. It would make sense that, this is why the person had cancer. This is why the person had dementia. This is why the person had a stroke. Obviously, we're not saying it's your fault or anything like that, but many times we have no idea what was going on. And when it comes to Black people, we see that our paper trail is quote unquote accelerated. And if you remember in our last meeting, we said there were three things that makes Black people more prone. One is that our brains are exposed to more insults and injury. Number two is that we don't have the guardrails. We don't have as many guardrails or safety checks to prevent against these injuries from happening, or to repair or to recover from these injuries. And number three is that once we begin to start having faults and we begin to start noticing problems in our brains or wherever, we're the least likely to go to the doctor or to the psychiatrist or to the neurologist for attention. We know that for sure in Nigeria. It seems like the pattern persists in the US and other developed countries as well. So those are the three things. One is that we have more attacks, we have greater attacks on our brains, and I'm going to explain why. It's not like somebody's after you or God doesn't like you. Number two is that we have fewer guardrails or fewer protections. And number three is that basically whether our psyche or our culture, we're not as quick to go to the doctor for problems related to the mind or problems related to the brain. And okay, here, I skipped that. So this is a picture like I showed you last time. So with Alzheimer's disease, your brain shrinks to about 2/3 or less of its original size. That means that there's been a lot of damage to neurons and damage to synapses in the brain. And I talked about the progression. So for many people, it's just age-related memory loss. You're not as quick to remember your children's names or your grandchildren's names. And there's something called mild cognitive decline, in which it's worse than just age-related. You're struggling, but it's not as bad. It's not to the point when you are unable to function, where you need assistance. You can still manage to get things done. You can still drive your car. You can still play golf. You can still do the things you need to do. But you and people around you see that you are struggling. With dementia or Alzheimer's disease, it's a completely different thing. You cannot live independently. Otherwise, in some cases, you might even burn the house down. You are doing things that are completely abnormal, and and people know that you have to have someone in the house with you 24/7 or at least close to it. And that's just a very loose way of defining these things. But there's the memory loss related with normal aging. There's a memory loss related with, which is known as MCI, mild cognitive impairments, and then there's dementia. And for many people, there's a progression. People who eventually get dementia pass through those stages. And in front of you, I just have a few examples of what is the difference between the memory loss due to normal aging and then Alzheimer's disease. And one of the things that stands out is that the person with dementia many times isn't able to pivot, doesn't realize what is going on. There are many times they're in denial. And even if they try to, with normal aging, if you try to remember, you try to retrace your steps. Let's say you went to the bedroom to try and fix something and you can't remember, then you come back to the living room, you walk around a little bit, it comes back to you. With dementia, that doesn't happen. Life continues. So what happens is that if it is just MCI, mild cognitive impairment, what they found out is that 10% will progress to dementia. About a third will, or a little bit over a third will progress to dementia within 5 years. So if you have MCI, that middle stage, there's a big chance that it will progress to dementia if nothing is done. So that's why I keep on hammering on people. Please, if you're having problems with your memory, don't take it lightly, even if it's just, I just forgot my child's name. If you're in your 60s and above, don't take it lightly. It may progress, it may not. But now we have the resources and the tools to help you fix your brain. And again, it comes from simply nourishing your brain, knowing how much to give your brain, how to. So it's about just taking the intelligent steps to feed your brain deliberately on a daily, regular basis, feeding your brain with the nutrients that you know that it requires. And I'm going to show you some of them as we go along. So we know on the outside is about memory, but when people describe it, they talk about different things. And I don't want to spend too much time here, but forgetting of words, forgetting your way around, not being able to balance your checkbook. So those are things that are common. But what does the histopathologist see? And this is, I want to share this because this hopefully will set a foundation for why and our approach. So you understand our approach to why we do what we do. So it's not just about amyloid plaques. I think there's a lot of emphasis on amyloid plaques and tau tangles, which is what is defined. That's a signature of Alzheimer's disease. But what scientists are seeing is that there's a whole lot of other things. And this is a lot of words and it's kind of like looks very like overwhelming. But they're seeing loss of synapses. They're seeing problems with glucose metabolism, insulin resistance. Another way to talk about insulin resistance. They're seeing oxidative stress, which is free radical damage. You've heard about antioxidants. Well, there's a loss of antioxidants, so there's a lot of damage to the nerve cells. All these things that you're seeing in front of you and more, we're seeing them in dementia. So it's not just that this amyloid plaques just appeared suddenly, they multiplied and they killed the brain. There's a lot of different things happening. The good thing about that is that for many of these things, people like me know exactly what to do in each of these conditions. And this one in blue, I'll point out, it seems like for most cases of dementia, everybody has probably heard of Aricept. Aricept deals with helping to boost acetylcholine, which is a neurotransmitter. So Aricept addresses this, okay, to some degree. But again, you can see that there are several other things going on that are not being addressed. So we feel we can address those things as well. And they are related to, in some way or the other, to the amyloid plaques. But if you address those other things, we know that if you address different things, the amyloid plaques too can be quote unquote indirectly addressed. Most of the focus now is finding the drugs that will specifically target the amyloid plaques. But we know that even when there are now several cases in which even when they've been successful at removing the amyloid plaques, there are still defects or deficits in cognition. So it doesn't entirely solve the problem. But we know that if you combine that with other things, that will solve the problem. So again, the point is, if it's memory loss, any kind of memory loss, take it seriously because it may progress to dementia. And I am also a representative for the Alzheimer's Association. They're doing a lot of good work. They are very, very open to helping people out, with resources and helping to give you direction. So I put their information here as well. The phone number is 800-272-3900. It is a 24/7. It's available 24/7. So please take advantage of that. And the website is alz.org. All right, so let's talk about prevention, as Dr. O wanted me to really talk about prevention. So I don't really like the word prevention because it seems so passive. I prefer to use the word strength, building strength, which is the name of my company that I registered. If you strengthen the brain, let's forget about prevention for once. What does the brain need to be strong? What does the brain need to be healthy? Then it is your responsibility. It is your obligation to yourself, first of all, and of course to your loved ones, to take care of your brain and to focus on strengthening your brain on a regular basis. I don't see how else you can think about this. You've got to strengthen this brain is so sensitive and so delicate, and it's the only one you have. So why would you be lax about it? Why would you take it lightly? You shouldn't. You've got to focus on strengthening your brain. And the way you focus on strengthening your brain is by giving it what it requires. Before I talk about that, I just want to go into the dementia's dirty dozen because these are the pathways. These are all the different things that are happening to us along the way. And many of us are affected by this, by one or more of these, in one way or the other. So it just makes sense that if you know, okay, this is a risk factor I have, then you'll be more apt to do something about it. I noticed there was somebody at the beginning of the call who said her dad had an injury or had a dementia from past injuries. Well, we know injuries, whether it's blunt injury or strokes, or concussions or traumatic brain injury. I was in the military. I suffered concussions. I suffered a concussion before. And there are many people who have had PTSD and even just from the blasts from gunfire can actually cause damage to the brain over a period of time. So these are all different things. I'm just going to try and see how much of, I mean, this is a book on its own, which I'm working on, by the way. But let me go back a little bit. So what we've seen is that for most of these 12 aspects, we see in many cases that Blacks have a slight, or even more than slight, disadvantage. I'm going to start with the first one, which is illnesses. Some of the top illnesses that they've seen that lead to dementia are obviously high hypertension and diabetes, because it affects the blood vessels, it affects the brain. High blood sugar affects the brain. It damages the memory centers over a period of time. It also affects the brain's ability to use glucose and the brain's ability to generate energy. So that's why it's so important that you have to ensure that you take your medications. You've got to be aggressive, fanatical about ensuring that your blood pressure is normal. That's less than 140/90. It has to be less than 140/90. No ifs or ands or buts.
120/80 or less.
That's 120/80 or less. Okay.
Yeah. We have research
right.
to support that.
Okay. So even for elderly people, that's yes. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Actually, more so for them, 120/80 or less. I'm so sorry to interrupt. Pardon me.
Absolutely. Oh, no, that's great. No, I didn't know I know that there had been like, okay, you got the pre-hypertension and then football. So anything above 120/80, is that hypertension now?
No, we have stages now. So that would be pre-hypertension. And then, then we have stage 1 hypertension, 140/90 or above. And then stage 2, stage 3.
Okay, so hypertension starts from 140/90, but pre-hypertension is between 120/80 and 140/90.
No, when it's over 120 to 130/80, say 89, is pre-hypertension.
130/89. Okay, 130/89. Okay. So you don't want it to get to 130/89. You want to be aggressive about ensuring, because again, it never happens it doesn't happen. It rarely ever happens suddenly, but over a period of time, that high pressure. Remember the water hose analogy. If that pressure is maintained at a higher level than the water hose was designed or manufactured to sustain, after a while you start seeing the cracks. And eventually it will be ruined. The same thing with your blood vessels, especially the sensitive blood vessels in the brain. So it's very important that you are fanatical about making sure your blood pressure is normal. Okay, so injury, we know, like I mentioned, blunt injury, repeated injuries, strokes, repeated minor strokes, repeated major strokes will all cause damage to the brain and eventually cause dementia. Insult is a large word. It deals with the toxins that you breathe in the air, the toxins you put on your skin. We know that Black women tend, and again, I don't want to get in trouble, but when it comes to hair products, the results are that Black women tend to put more toxic hair products, and they use more, and the kind of hair products that you use, it's more toxic to the body over a period of time. They use more of it and it's more toxic to the body. That's what they're finding out. I don't want to get in trouble. So insults, again, it includes obviously deodorants. You spray deodorants. Many of them contain aluminum and other heavy metals, which can get into the body. There are toxins in your teeth. Those of you who have had root canals or have silver fillings, those contain mercury. Those things can, in fact, get into the blood and eventually, over time, damage and cause problems for the brain. So there are a lot of those things that are going on. And like I said, it's a whole chapter on itself. Intoxication, toxins. Inactivity could be both mental inactivity and physical inactivity. So again, we've got to get out. Now the sun is coming back, it's getting warmer. Please get out and move. That's probably one of the best things you can do for your brain. And even as we're talking about some of the things that you can do to help your brain, all these different things. I remember I call them the dirty dozen. They all start with the letter I. If you do these things, or if you avoid these things, or you address these things, your whatever intervention that you get on will work even better because your body is waking up. So whether it's for your spouse or your grandparent, your parents or whatever it is, they all need to move around. Insufficiencies, I'm going to talk about that a little bit, but they have a lot to do with having enough oxygen, not having enough glucose, not having enough hormones. That's a big thing. Estrogen, for instance, is one of the most important chemicals, not just hormones, for the brain. One of the reasons they're saying women tend to have twice as much dementia as men is because after menopause, their estrogen levels drop precipitously. And estrogen is highly protective, not just of the neurons, but also of the synapses. It helps to form the synapses. So once that estrogen level drops, that protection is lost. I remember what I was talking about, how we as Blacks have fewer protections. This is one of the things they're looking at as well. Okay. All right. Imbalances, that's another big one. So again, back to the hormones, estrogen, progesterone, that balance is lost. There seems to be what is known as estrogen dominance over progesterone. That in itself can cause problems in the brain. And we see that again after menopause. So there's that. But there are a lot of other imbalances too. I think we have it on our website where we can actually see these different things. We talked a little bit about them. Insulin resistance is a big thing. We as Black people tend not to handle blood sugar and salt, for that matter, as well as white people do. All right, I'm going to just rush through the rest because I want to get to the problems. So infections could be in your teeth, your gum. One of the big things that we don't talk about much is that gum infections, tooth infections can have a direct highway to the brain and can lodge those bugs and those viruses can lodge in the brain and cause inflammation in the brain. So it's very important to have good dental health. Please brush your teeth before you go to bed at night. That's the least you can do. You need to brush your teeth twice a day. People say after every meal, but at least starts by brushing at night. And of course, you brush in the morning as well. Sleep, more and more research is showing that if you're not having enough good deep sleep, that's 7 hours a day, good deep sleep, turn off all the lights, throw your cell phone away. If you like, maybe put off the Wi-Fi, put on your blinders, those things you can get, those things they use on the plane. That's what I use every night. So you want to sleep in complete and total darkness. Complete and total darkness. If you don't get complete and total darkness and there's noise and distractions all around you, the TV is on, the lights are on, I can guarantee you that you are not sleeping well. Isolation is another thing. You probably heard of the Harvard study where they showed that the people who lived the longest and the happiest and the best and the best emotionally adjusted were those who had very good quality friendships throughout their lives. Isolation is a killer. It will kill you in more ways than one. All right. Immune dysfunction, that's another. What we're finding out now is that the immune system, if you can strengthen the immune system, and that's one of our approaches, if you can improve immune function. In many cases, in dementia, there's a disruption in the immune cells in the brain are going haywire and are part of the problem. They are actually attacking the brain cells themselves. So in fact, COVID was a big problem like that. COVID was a case in which the immune cells were going bonkers and they were attacking organs all over the body. They were attacking organs all over the body. So if you can quiet the immune cells, sort of say, peace, be still kind of thing. If you can quiet the immune cells with the right nutrients and the right approach, you find out that pressure or that problem on the brain will begin to abate and will give the brain time, space to heal and to recover. But big thing, I think there was an Israeli scientist. There was an Israeli scientist who was, she deals with the immune system and the brain. And they were experimenting on rats, or is it mice, and they sent it. They found a way to knock out the immune system in the mice in the brain, and they were trying to test intelligence and cognition in the brain of these mice. So they sent these immune deficient mice to the lab to do those tests, and the lab scientist calls her back, and he says, "Why did you send me all these stupid mice? That we don't want to use these mice. They are all stupid. They don't know. They can't find their way in the maze. They can't do anything." She didn't do anything to their brains. All she did was that she knocked out the immune function. The point being that you cannot hope to have any form of improvement in your brain if the immune cells, systemic immunity now, systemic immune cells as well as the brain cells are not functioning like they should. And I think that's a gap that is huge, in my opinion, in this whole treatment of brain disorders. By the way, once you have an injury to your brain, your immune cells have gone haywire. So there's a lot of inflammation, and it's immune cells that cause inflammation in the brain. Again, part of the solution to that is to improve, not boost immunity now, but to improve the intelligence of the immune cells, feed the immune cells so that they now balance things out and they act like they should. And yes, there is a way to do that. All right, so let's talk about some of the things that you are most likely not doing, because I wasn't doing it. You're doing this, and I just learned about these things maybe 2 years back at most. I've been a doctor now for 25 years. I only learned about some of these things 2 years back. So there's a good chance most people don't know about this. And it's because I was searching. So let's think about it. Remember I said, you've got to strengthen your brain. It's not just about prevention. It's your responsibility throughout your life. What can I do to ensure that my brain is healthy and strong? Healthy and strong. We've talked about some of the things that's cause dementia. So you do the opposite and you will now get stronger. But let's talk about the specifics. I mentioned these before in the last week. I mentioned it. These are the absolute bottom line. These are the absolute basics. I call them the big seven. These are the nutrients or the supplements that you should be having on a daily basis. I'm actually working on seeing how we can combine them so I make it easy for people. So it's not like you have to buy 5 or 6 different supplements. You can just get it in one, in the right doses, in the right combinations, and with the right salts, because the salts matter. The delivery system matters as well. So we're working on that. But I'm going to mention a few things because I don't want to go to take too much time on this. The B vitamins, we're finding out that B1 is extremely important for the health of the nerve cells, the neurons and the nerve cells. Vitamin K2, like I mentioned before, is important for calcium, for removing calcium from the blood, but it's also very important in the brain. They found that it's helpful for brain function as well. Magnesium is very important even for sleep and relaxation. But interestingly enough, magnesium works with vitamin D3. So vitamin D3 has to be converted to its active form in the body, which is called calcitriol. And magnesium is necessary for that conversion to happen. So if you're deficient in magnesium, even if you take all the vitamin D3 that you could possibly imagine taking, and you don't have enough magnesium, it may not do you much good because it's not being converted into the active form of vitamin D3. So these were chosen, again, there's a lot of research behind it, but these were chosen for that particular purpose. I talked to Dr. Ho about potassium. They're finding out it's very important for the brain. over 30% of the energy supply in the brain and the body is devoted to what is known as the sodium-potassium ATPase pump. The sodium pump is a pump that ensures that there's enough sodium in the blood and enough potassium in the cells. It's like a pump. It pushes out sodium out of the cells, pushes potassium into the cells. Ongoing. If that pump isn't working like it should, or if you don't have enough energy, things, I mean, it's a downhill climb it's a downhill slide from there. Potassium is extremely important for blood flow, for energy, for brain function. Vitamin D3, here's something I just saw recently that I felt it would be great to share with you. They've done research in Ireland and in some parts of the UK. 40%, they did, this was an interventionist study. So this was an interventionist study. They found out that over a period of time, I forgot how long it was, but they found 40% protection against dementia, and then 15 to 18% protection against developing diabetes if you are already pre-diabetic. Think about that. You can actually protect yourself against dementia on vitamin D3 alone. That's bizarre. Now remember, we as Black people are deficient in vitamin D3. We're deficient in vitamin D3. I really wish that this would be something like from the Ministry of Health or the HHS. They make it compulsory. I know that's not possible. Mandatory, in my opinion. Every Black person should be on vitamin D3 from, I don't care, maybe 15 years of age, 20 years of age. Because really, they were now seeing that the effects of this lack of vitamin D3, we're beginning to see them in young people in their 20s, because the damage has already started. Vitamin D3 is extremely protective. All right, so this was another graph that kind of like showed it. So those who had vitamin D3, that's in the blue line, they were more protected. You can see it's higher than the green line. They are more protected. But bottom line is at 40% production. Also, you want omega-3. If you can afford it, you need to get omega-3 fatty acids and be taken on a regular basis. Your brain is mainly composed of fats, and over 50% of the fat is specifically omega-3 fatty acids. So it just makes sense to have to be feeding your brain with omega-3 fatty acids, so it can repair, it can replace damaged cells and damaged networks. And I mentioned that soluble fiber. I use psyllium husk every day. Your bacteria in your gut break down the fiber. You can't use fiber. Fiber is useless to you. But when you take it in, your bacteria break it down, and they produce extremely important chemicals, which the brain needs for memory and for function. So strongly recommend you get fiber. All right, so having said that, so we basically I'm just trying to talk about the basic things that you need to do. If you're dealing with memory lapses and they are troubling, and that these are things that it's a problem, those preventative measures that I've just talked about probably aren't going to solve your problem. But you have to take it the next step higher. So what we do is that there's a wide range about different kind of nutraceuticals, what we call nutraceuticals. These are high-level supplements, highly concentrated nutrients that are specifically targeted to brain function. Now, for some people, they just need one bottle of a specific kind of nutrient, and we have different kinds. And what we found out is that different things work for different people. So sometimes we might try one, and the person comes back after 2 weeks and says, no, there wasn't any change. Then we try something else, and it works. So different strokes for different folks. That's our experience. But the thing is that they're safe. All of the things that we use and recommend, we use them on kids, for children as young as 6 months for years. Very safe and very effective. And so when we started having adults coming to us, we just basically applied the same principles. And we started using them on adults. Obviously, we had to use higher doses. But when we found the right doses, we found that it worked as well for adults. It takes longer because adults, being adults, they're not as responsive as children. But bottom line is that the results were quite similar. So we're very confident. And that's why we only use nutrients, because we have patients all over the place, all over Nigeria, all over the US and the UK. So obviously we don't want to use medications because you can't monitor it. you don't always going to have an adverse reaction to a drug, but for supplements and nutraceuticals, that risk is much less. All right. So we talked about preventing, just doing the right thing, improving your, making sure you're strengthening your brain on a regular basis. We've also talked about if you're beginning to stumble, your memory is beginning to stumble and you're concerned about it, there's something for that as well. Now we're going to go into full-blown dementia. Now, this is not a treatment. Please don't say I'm making any claims here because I don't want to get in trouble. But again, these are things that we're very comfortable talking about in Nigeria because it's backed by the federal government. Like I said, we've tendered all our results. They've given it the stamp of approval. We have a documented agreement with the federal government to use our approach. It's called the Building Strength Approach. It's all written down with the Ministry of Health. They know what we're doing. So that's a disclaimer. However, if it will benefit you. And of course, if you do want to contact me and you want to partake of that, obviously you will sign a waiver to say that you know that I'm not a licensed practitioner in the US. And we do charge a small fee too for this consultation, but I think it will be of help to you if this is what you're looking for. At this point, Dr. O, do you want?
I am advocating for Medical Monday special, no contract. I mean, no fee.
All right.
That's Madam CEO from California, NAPAC. You know,
we shall send the bill to California then. So
no, you have to send it to Medical Mondays. That's what she's saying.
Okay. All right. At this point, any other points, Dr. O, you want to talk about? Anything? Yeah, I'm just going to pause here.
Now, I think you're going into the full-blown dementia, what to do?
Yes.
Yeah, I think you should go ahead and wrap it up and then we'll go to Q&A.
Good. Okay. Let's wrap it up. All right. So it's a seven-pronged approach. What we found out is that the brain, being so highly complicated that the organ that it is, we have to address 7 things. I'm going to start with just go clockwise. I've emphasized blood flow. So we use nutraceuticals to significantly improve blood flow to the brain and within the brain. And there's a Nobel Prize that is backing the discovery and the approach that we use. We also have nutraceuticals for brain support, improving brain function, improving the communication between neurons, those synapses. There are now nutraceuticals that help to boost and improve those communications and those circuits so you can better remember things. I remember I used to have challenges I would have to really think hard to remember things. But when I'm using these things, it's a lot easier. So even I need it. Let me see, what's this one down here? Can you see what this is? This is hormonal support, right? Okay, this is hormonal support. I mentioned estrogen. We know testosterone. After estrogen, testosterone is very important. We know that hormones like cortisol can damage the memory centers. We know that insulin is very important. We know that there's a lot of insulin resistance in the brain. And so it's harder we know that insulin is not just for blood glucose, by the way. Insulin is important for the brain to remember things. So if the brain is resistant to insulin, then we're in trouble. So we address the hormones as well. There are nutraceuticals to be used in that way. And also we advise on your diet because you want to start reducing your starch intake. In fact, there's a lot of proponents for living a fasted life, eating like within a short window, especially if you're dealing with dementia. First of all, you just want to get carbs out of your system and fried foods and all that crap out of your system. But they recommend vegetables and proteins, as little carbohydrates as possible, because it spikes your blood sugars. I mentioned immune support. So we have a nutraceutical that addresses immune function as well. There's a lot to be said about the gut and the digestive system. Because a lot of what goes on in the brain is affected by the gut, and a lot of what happens in the gut is affected by the brain, so that we address that as well. Detoxification, we know that we mentioned toxins as well. We have a lot of us have toxins that are built up in our bodies. There are safe, easy ways to do that. Again, we started that with kids with autism, and autism and dementia have a lot of similarities. But one of the things that we got this foundation started was we started using detoxification with kids with autism, and the results were interesting, quite effective. So we just translated that to adults, and we see that it helps with adults as well. Finally, energy. You've got to feed the brain cells. If they're not getting enough glucose, or if for any reason they are resistant to glucose, they've ketones. I know, Dr. O, we have the issues with ketones and all that, but there's a lot of data now showing that if the brain cannot use glucose, it will grab ketones if the ketones are presented to it. And I mentioned Mary Newport, the doctor who she started giving MCT oils and ketone bodies to her husband who had, I think, very late stage dementia, and she saw some improvements. I don't know if the improvements were sustained. I would have to research that, but there's no question that ketones can be an alternate source of fuel for the brain. The truth is the brain is starving. That a person with dementia, their brain for some reason is not getting the nutrients it needs, and therefore it is starving. So you have to address that brain's nutrient needs. And if it's not going to respond to glucose, it needs glucose. But if it's not taking in glucose, then you've got to find an alternative. And that's the ketones that they say. So we use this combination, not all at once. We start with a few steps, we get the response from that, and then we add to it, and we add to it, and we add to it. But usually there's a back and forth between myself and the caregiver or the spouse over a period of time. But usually with time, we see some really good results. Remember, this is the most complicated piece of biomachinery in the known universe. It doesn't turn around just like that. Quick mention, testosterone, like I said, is very important for brain function. One of the reasons why they say women are having it worse than men is that men, they don't have that drop in estrogen that happens at menopause. And the other thing is that men can convert their testosterone to estrogen, which is, like I said, the most important hormone, probably the most important hormone for the brain. Very, very, very protective of the brain. So men can convert their testosterone. Women don't have that much testosterone to convert, so they're left high and dry, unfortunately. Again, there are nutraceuticals that help the body make more testosterone, make more estrogen, make more progesterone. And they've seen some good results with it. And also there are some side effects that's, depending on who you are, you might like or not like it. When you have more testosterone and estrogen, you can imagine what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's hope, I'm going to summarize, just round up now. I think we've kind of gone through most of these points. So what to do, I would just, if you do want to reach out and contact me, that's my information, my phone number and my email address, and we can schedule a consultation, and then at least you can help to clarify things and I'll work through things for you. So with that said, Dr. O, thank you so much again for this honor. I hope we've been able to provide some beneficial information.
Thank you so much. That was awesome. Absolutely awesome. So I have some questions in the chat box. I don't understand. I don't understand one of them, but I'm going to ask Dr. Ajibade to ask it. It says, this is not a question, the first one. It said, you should please remember to discuss the differences between senility, amnesia, and senior moment, as well as dementia.
Okay, so senility.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Senility, I guess senility and senior moments probably will be somewhat similar. So senility is, and I know Dr. Ajibade did a wonderful job last week, better than what I would have done, what I will do now, but I'll give it a try. So senility has to do with the mental decline that comes with age. Remember, everybody's kind of experiences that You have to think a little harder to remember some things that you just come to you if you are 25. Senior moments, those blank things. Oh, what's the name of my wife? What's the name of my husband? What's the name of my daughter? And you like a senior moment, or you just some things that come normally to you, you've just forgotten about them. But those are just transients. They're not consistent. Dementia, amnesia. Dementia is when you're like, you can't find your way back home. You go out for a walk and it's a neighborhood you've been around thousands of times, and then you are trying to get back home and you just cannot find your way home. Plus, with most cases of dementia, there's that component of that emotional component, confusion, anxiety, angst. In some cases, there's aggression. These are all things that come with dementia that people don't talk about much, but it's there as well. So like I said, confusion and things like that. What do you think, Dr. O? Did I cover it?
I believe so. Dr. Ajibade, are you happy? But he has another one. How does the culture of oath to secrecy in adults impact the propensity to developing dementia? What is the oath to secrecy? Dr. Ajibade, kindly mute.
I've unmuted. Okay.
What is the oath to secrecy?
Well, there are so many things happening in adulthood. I don't want to use adulthood very loosely, but I think even as early as teens, when people join clubs or gangs or different societies, they have to keep secrecy. And there's so many things that they have to take to their graves. And it's kind of like training the muscles to do exercise or doing the opposite, not doing exercise and seeing the muscle actually atrophied or slim down or become, kind of, very weak. The same thing with the brain. If you constantly try to forget things for one reason or another, it's kind of like training the brain to go in that path, in that direction. Now, there may not be any scientific study to support that, but I think if we look at it critically, that's something that people are trying to do. You find people trying to forget who they are because they're trying to be safe. They change their identity. They change so many things around it. So I'm wondering if there is a kind of, a trajectory that willful forgetfulness can actually enhance or lead to dementia, full-blown dementia.
Is it really willful forgetfulness or suppressing unpleasant memories?
Both. There are people that they swear that they will never divulge certain things. So when you are told to forget things that happened, that's something you have to do willingly. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Dr. Ajibade, you said that's your territory. I'm not sure whether you encounter stuff like that. But I kind of just felt there might be a correlation between when one tries to forget things all the time, all in the name of, protecting certain things or certain people, that might actually lead to forgetfulness.
I would think that would be a bit of a stretch for dementia to happen, because remember, we're talking about physical damage to the brain. That could be from any of the things that we mentioned. The only way I can see that happening is if the person is conflicted and maybe he's trying to save a life, but he knows he can't go against his oath of secrecy, and that stress, that distress and the conflict is eating him up on the inside. And then that I can conceivably begin to cause stress. So cortisol levels increase over a period of time and are sustained. Then that can eventually lead to that. But just willful trying to keep things suppressed without that other component that I just mentioned, I could be wrong, but I just don't see it at this point.
Yeah,
Thank
I agree
you.
with you. And I wanted to say that I agree with Dr. Ajay, who said that sounds like occultism, secret clubs, or associations. I'm not familiar with, somebody or a group telling somebody to keep secrets. I guess in certain cults and all, they do that. But that obviously will not lead to dementia because it's something designed to keep the secret of whatever environ or group they are. But if there are, experiences that were not unhappy experiences, abuse, stuff like that in the past, and somebody suppresses it in them, because that's part of what we send people to counseling for, to overcome things like that. Could that lead to dementia? I doubt it. I think that's a stretch. I really do. But I think it should be researched, and we'll see. Anyways, thank you for the question and for that thought. I like it. I like your train of thought. I just don't think that's what constitutes dementia. So I'm going to call on Sister Ayana Charis.
Yes.
Kindly unmute. Fantastic.
Hi. Thank you, Dr. David. I enjoyed your presentation tonight. I am a first timer, a guest of Dr. Jennifer Jones, and she highly recommended that I ask Dr. O a question when I asked her about my mother, who is 78, dealing with chronic pain in her muscles, and it goes all over her body. And I've tried everything I can think of to alleviate the pain. Some of it has worked, particularly she had a mineral deficiency. So the magnesium was right on point, the potassium, she was low on calcium, everything. So we fixed that problem and it's gotten better. And I'm still looking for a solution to take the pain away. It's chronic pain in her muscles, not joints, but muscles. What do you recommend, Dr. O?
Anti-inflammatory agents. And before then, it's important to investigate why the pain. Dr. Ajibade would agree with me. The reason why he practices medicine the way he does is he doesn't like palliation. He likes to go to the root cause of issues. And I agree with that, to find out first why, and then we can then fix that. If you please private chat me,
okay,
with your information, then I can connect you to resources where that can be investigated. She should not be in chronic pain. We don't want that. And thank you so much for coming on Medical Mondays. Thank you for standing in the gap for your mother. We appreciate that. Thank you. God bless you. So, Dr. Ajibade, I have a question on sleep. You mentioned something about having a quiet environment for sleep, keeping the room dark. And if one doesn't, you said they're not getting good sleep. We know that it wasn't too long ago that we found out that the brain actually cleans itself out in sleep. And that sleep is important. Consistency in sleep also is important. Yes. And, we need to note that. And it is noted that when people don't sleep around the same time every night and the same number of hours, then it increases the chances of dementia. That is research proven. So I guess what I wanted to ask is about people who put the TV on to sleep, or, they play soft music like, waterfalls and stuff like that to sleep. What do you say to that? Is that ideal? Is it okay? Does it affect the brain?
Yeah, so if we're talking about relaxing music and music that is pleasant, the most important thing is the light, is a light thing, because it's in the absence of light or the presence of darkness. That's one of the most powerful chemicals in the body, the most powerful healing chemicals in the body, called melatonin, is released. If you don't have enough, if there's not enough darkness, or if there's a lot of light, whether it's flickering light or whether it's just a light blue light to the corner there, and your body's going to detect it, your eyes are going to detect it, and you will not be able to produce enough melatonin. If you're not producing enough melatonin, you will not be able to clean up and repair your brain like you should. When it comes to music and light, other things, as long as it's not disturbing or it's not energizing, not rock music, so to speak, I don't think that's anywhere as disruptive on sleep as light is.
Thank you. Madam CEO, you can ask your question, ladies first. Dr. Ajibade.
No, Dr. Ajibade, no question. Dr. Ajibade, that statement you just made, is shocking to me, because I sleep with light on. 95% of my life, I have slept with lights on.
Okay.
And most of the time, I don't have a problem sleeping. When I'm knocked out, I'm knocked out.
Yeah, it's not that it stops you from sleeping. You may not realize this, and maybe you're one of the few who it doesn't affect. We're all different in different ways. I know some people survive on 4 hours sleep a night. Others can't do. They would be groggy if they slept anything less than 7 hours. So, but those are the two. In my opinion, those are the outliers. However, the fact that you sleep well does not mean that the fact that you feel you sleep well does not mean that everything is going on well in your brain either. You may just be used to it.
I see.
My mother slept with light on. The thing ticked me off a lot, especially in Nigeria, because of the,
electricity.
The electricity is not there. So Jen has to be running. That's money paying for gasoline. She slept with the light on. When she's here in the US, the same thing all over. She lived to be 94. Her brain was sharp till the end. So
those are, so those are outliers from the research. The research
outlier.
Research is really sad.
She's an outlier in everything, even at the point of death. So, Dr. Ajibade, ask your question, sir.
Yeah, Dr. Ajibade, thank you for the information that you're imparting on us. I'm just concerned, even though it's acceptable or it's been acceptable as norm in Africa, particularly in Nigeria, where there are all sorts of noise pollution going on. Dr. O just mentioned something about generator walking through the night. And then you have neighbors who are, either Alawa Kubaruin all through the night. You just have a loudspeaker from 1 mile away blasting some kind of things you can't even decipher what they're saying, but they're loud anyway, but they seem to be acceptable. And then in the morning, before you even open your eyes, you're hearing the street evangelists all making all their noises on their speakerphone, on their loudspeaker. Some driving and some in some corner of the street. It's just too much. How much sleep do Nigerians get, particularly in Lagos, that will make them to be sane on the road? If everybody is so confused on the road and there's almost traffic everywhere, there's stress. There's cortisol flowing. I'm sure if we're going to measure people's cortisol level from when they open their eyes till when they sleep at night, it will be through the roof. So how do you explain that for us?
I think you've already explained it. people are really stressed out. But do you know what the average lifespan of Nigerians is, Dr. Ajibade?
I don't want to presume on knowing, so can you just tell us?
It went up to, I think, 50.
It's 54 now, ma.
54 now, yeah. It used to be 40, 45.
Yeah. So that's like the third worst in Africa. I think we're tied with number 2. I think number 1, I don't know which one very poor country in Africa. I mean, that's a big shame. Part of it is also that we have a lot of high infant mortality, so it skews it downwards. But bottom line is that a lot of people are really, Lagos in particular. Yeah, I mean, I've never lived in Lagos, could not live in Lagos. I remember when I first went back to Nigeria about 10 years ago, and I was in my sister's place. All these things that Dr. Ajibade is talking about, I couldn't sleep. I mean, the generator, the noise, of course, the mosquitoes, the people praying in the morning. I mean, it was just terrible. It was terrible.
Through the night is the problem, because you hear the CNS on one corner, you hear the Sele on the other corner, and you have everybody. I mean, almost every other house is a church, and a mosque. So between the mosque and the churches, what do? You can't even sleep well.
You use earplugs.
So a lot of people have short. Yeah, earplugs. That's a good one too, Doctor.
No, you start praying. You start praying. That's what you do. You pray with the mother. You pray with the Christian.
How's your brain going to rest when you do that?
You pray through the night.
You're supposed to be sleeping.
So,
anyway,
Dr. Veronica Ofwegune said, when you are born and raised in Lagos, light and noise are part of your experiences. She's right on the money, but the life expectancy, again, is so low. We don't think about that. There are many things that cause that, but, the lifestyle is a big one.
Thank you, Dr. Ajibade.
And Dr. Ajay said, agreed with Dr. V and said, it's like Washington, D.C. Some parts, sirens go off constantly. And, that is true. It still impacts, the life expectancy and health generally. So good sleep is important, whichever way we slice it. And it has a lot to do with brain health.
This is Dr. Maureen. Thank you, Dr. Ajibade, for the talk. But when you live in Lut and you go to school, you don't need an alarm clock to wake you up for class because you have the Muslims down at the end waking you up. I lived in Lagos, so please don't you. I know all the songs in Lagos that wake me up or give me the time.
It is true. It is true. Dr. Ajagwe, thanks for raising that. But, these things still need to change. See, we've accepted the status quo is the problem.
That's what I'm saying.
So, okay,
something has to change.
Go ahead.
The other thing I wanted to raise, Dr. Ajibade mentioned oral health. Oral health is very, very important. Oral health is imperative, actually, for systemic health. If we don't have good oral health, we cannot truly be really healthy. I mean, I don't care how, healthy looking somebody can be without good oral hygiene. Is affecting several systems of the body. And I think if the mouth is not healthy, that is, you have gum infection, you have tooth infection, or you have a combination of both, when you brush, that is what we call transient bacteremia. Transient bacteremia means just temporary bacteria in your bloodstream, which is caused just by simply brushing. And that in itself can lead to a whole lot of problems, from kidney disease to brain infection, to liver infection, to spleen infection. Almost every organ in the body can get the seed of the bacteria that goes into the bloodstream when the mouth is funky. So the best thing to do, well, you did the right advertisement for dental, that you should brush at least once a day. If you don't brush twice a day, but at least, if you can brush twice a day, is much better for you. It's good for your...
If you're brushing once a day, sir, if you're brushing once a day, it has to be at night.
What I'm just saying is, at least don't abscond or don't avoid brushing, period. So just do brushing, whether it is once a day. The best ideal would be to do it twice. There are scientific justifications for that. But the point I'm trying to make is that the oral cavity, the mouth, is right below the base of the skull. Because it's right below the base of the skull, there are holes that communicate that between the inside of the space where the brain is and the spaces in the mouth and the pharyngeal area, which is the throat area. So there are some holes there, even though you can't see them when you look in people's mouths, but they are nonetheless, they are there, just like the eustachian tube. Each of the sinuses that we have in the base of the skull has an opening. And those openings, when the infection spreads through them, is a thorough, what you call the thorough way, infection superhighway to the brain. So the ideal thing is to avoid having infected dental, whether it is a tooth or the gums or any part of the mouth whatsoever, to be infected. And if it is infected, get help quickly. Don't wait until something really bad happens. Because there have been cases where simple infection that could have been treated with antibiotics actually caused death. And once it gets into the brain, what we call the meningitis sets in, and most patients don't survive meningitis. When it comes suddenly and they don't even suspect it, the child or the adult can expire straight from the infection of the brain that is arising from the infections in the mouth. So I think we cannot overemphasize that. We need to remember that.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for bringing that up. I want to, though, step back a bit and encourage that we brush twice a day. The brushing at night, as Dr. Ajibade was trying to point out, is very important, because at night, Dr. Jagbe, you have taught us on this forum in the past that at night, the bacteria in the mouth have a field day because you are not talking. You're sleeping. Your mouth is covered, so you are not talking. So that's when they seed and they, have a field day, and it's dangerous to leave them like that. So it's important to brush at night. That was why Dr. Ajibade interjected that if you have to brush once a day, make it at night, because you're talking during the day. So going back to sleep, Dr. V says Lagos, that you still sleep like a baby there, and throw in some dreams too. Can you explain that? And I see why she would say that, because you have to be in REM sleep to be able to, that's deep sleep. You have to be in REM sleep to be able to dream. So you would have gone through those stages of sleep to get into the REM sleep to be able to sleep. I guess, adaptation would explain that. But it doesn't mean that it is the best thing for the health. And Dr. Ajay pointed out that, what about sitting in traffic during rush hour? I don't think that's a good one either. I don't think so. And coming back to oral health, Dr. V says true that oral health issues around the jaw cause migraines. It causes migraines, it causes a lot of things. And I'll give you some great news. We have a dentist coming to give us at least 3 weeks of dental health, one after the other. And Dr. Ajibade will be rounding that series up. But that will not be starting until the week after next, because next Monday, guess what is happening? Next Monday, the 27th of March, I'm being sworn in as a multicultural commissioner for Prince George's County. So Dave, it happens to be Monday. And
hey, the Ashwebi is purple, please.
We're going to have purple Ashwebi.
Wonderful. Let me go and sew my purple. Congratulations, Dr. O.
Thank you.
Send us the link so we can watch you, please.
Yes.
Congrats to Dr. O.
Thank you so much.
Commissioner for Happiness. All right.
Yes. So they've agreed that we will Zoom, that we'll be able to use our Zoom. That day, they said we should get there at 6. I'm guessing this will start around maybe 6:15, 6:30, but Medical Mondays will be on. So our Medical Mondays next week will be the swearing in ceremony. So please do still join us. I'll send it the regular way. And if you are in Maryland and you want to come in person, please do. The state attorney wants as many of us in there as possible. And we're excited about this. So, and after that, then we'll start the dental series. I'm looking forward to that. And thank you to our dentists who have agreed to do that for us.
Dr. O, everyone should send this link to their other friends who aren't here, because word of mouth matters. Thanks.
Okay. Yes. Dr. V, you said it. So please, once we send the link, send it out to your friends, to everybody. Let's be together next week and enjoy this swearing in.
Congratulations.
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 Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congrats, Dr. O.
Very proud of you.
Well done.
Well done. Well done.
Thank you, Dr. Ajibade and Dr. Ajagbe.
Thank you.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Well done.
Does anyone have any more questions? And if you need to get in touch with Dr. Ajibade, it's very interesting that I actually got a few calls before this talk. It's like people knew it was going to happen and they didn't know, about people complaining of memory lapses of some sort or the other. So please contact Dr. Ajibade if you're having these issues. I'm reposting his contact. And when memory starts becoming problematic, whatever you can do is important to do. Because once dementia sets in, actually, even with dementia, when somebody has dementia, it's been shown that this works. And like Dr. Ajibade said, this has been approved by the pharmaceutical authorities, right, in Nigeria.
Ministry of Health.
Ministry of Health. Cool.
And the NAFDAC, which is FDA.
Nice. So,
Dr. O, you put in, what you put in was the Alzheimer's Association contact details. So I'm just putting in.
Sorry about that.
Which is good too.
Can you put in your information?
I've done that, yes.
Dr. Silvi, when I call you up the phone. Thank you. Thank you for reposting that.
Sure thing.
Yeah.
Can we have his information again?
It's there.
It's right there. I'm reposting it. And there's a question here. Dr. Buka is asking what foods are rich in magnesium.
Question. I mean, you can't go wrong with fruits and vegetables. The problem is just that you just
How much of it are you going to eat?
How much are you going to eat? How do you know how much is in that particular leaf or that particular veggie? You just don't know. Those things are just very vague. So that's why I always say you got to take. And now they're recommending taking about 400 to 500 milligrams of magnesium a day is what we need. So even many of the supplements, of course, as Dr. O said, the multivitamin supplements don't get anywhere close to what your daily requirement is. So I would suggest you just, I mean, if you are concerned about magnesium, I would suggest you get a supplement. I always eat a balanced diet. This is my theory. Make sure you eat sensibly, eat your fruits, eat your veggies, minimize your carbs, eat meat, and all that. But just know that is not, even doing that is not going to guarantee that you're going to get the nutrients that you need. So you've got to go over and above that.
Where is Dr. Ajibade based? The US?
I'm in Baltimore, Maryland now. But I'm also based in Nigeria, so I live in two worlds. I run my foundation from morning till my organization, so I'm working with my team till about 2:00 or earlier when they close, and then for the rest of the day I'm doing my own work in the US, so it's just hard, and the job with it straddled the two places. But someone's got to do it.
How do you get sleep?
When do you get sleep? I agree.
Okay, well, sleep. Oh.
We make it happen. No, we have to make it.
No,
happen.
it's a legitimate question. You've been talking to us about sleep. When do you get sleep?
I make sure I sleep. I make sure I sleep. I make sure I get my 7 hours sleep at least. And I even have my masks. It's not here now, but I have my.
From what time?
Probably like 12 midnight to about 7 o'clock.
Okay, well, I expect so there.
So, Dr. Ajibade, yeah, go ahead.
I don't tolerate zinc very well. So I've tried it several times. Maybe after a meal, but usually if I take zinc early, I keep puking. So maybe I'll be deficient in that.
Maybe you should take it with the meals. Just take it with meals then. You know, it could be the fillers. You know, with all of these things, there will be fillers.
Without food makes you very nauseous. You should take it on a full stomach or with food.
And it could be salts. It could be so the zinc carbonate, zinc this, zinc that, zinc. The best one is zinc picolinate, by the way. But I mean, it could be maybe you're not reacting to the zinc itself. It could be the salts that binds with the zinc you're reacting to. So you might want to try a different form, different kind.
Yeah, because it could be the fillers. And take it with food. Also, there's nothing wrong with it. You will still absorb a good chunk of it.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Ajibade, can you give us your parting words?
Parting words is what I've emphasized throughout. You build strength in your brain. It's your responsibility. Don't be slack. Take responsibility to protect and strengthen your brain. That's what I pray for everyone, that everyone takes that to heart. And thank you again, Dr. O.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Yes, this is what I wanted to hear. You did it.